Last thing to do is read through our hearing script. This basically just covers the procedure for the hearing, and we'll jump right into the presentation from the applicant. So this is the January 26, 2022 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city of Cincinnati, and I'll preside over this hearing. The case before us today is case number ZHUV210017. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing, unless the party has submitted evidence or testimony in the form of writing prior to this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. Let's see if there were anyone here from the public that was not represented by an attorney, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. If the applicant is represented by an attorney, the applicant's attorney may cross-examine any person who has testified at this hearing. If a party of record is represented by an attorney, the attorney for the party of record may present witnesses after the applicant has presented its case and may cross-examine any person who has testified at the hearing. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to an application, the applicant shall have an opportunity to rebut that testimony and or argument offered in opposition. After the applicant has been given an opportunity to rebut any testimony and or argument offered in opposition, and the attorney for a party of record will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. Finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make a closing statement. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. I may also refuse to consider hearsay testimony or documents. This generally means evidence you want to introduce that consists of statements made by someone who's not present at this hearing. In the event of any technical difficulties or unforeseen circumstances with our video conferencing technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot that on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with the hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing, and that'll be at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is swear in all of our witnesses. So anyone here today that intends on testifying, making any comment, asking any questions, doing anything other than just strictly observing this hearing today and is not an attorney needs to be sworn in. So if that is you, if you could take yourself off mute, I need everyone to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Have you all sworn? All right, fantastic. Mr. Colby, who's going to be taking the lead here on the presentation of the applicant's case?
I think Matt, do you want to lead? We can lead.
Sure.
But I was under the impression that Doug would do a staff report, but is that not the case on this one?
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I sorry I left that out of the procedure there. So after let's see, I will typically allow that after the applicant has presented its case or told me about the project.
Sure.
So
We can do that. Let's do that.
okay, great. And I'm open in terms of how you guys want to present this to me. I mean, you can go one at a time. You can go back and forth. It's really.
I like
open to
that.
you. And then once all three of you have had an opportunity to present, then Tim, or Mr. Burke, I'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions of these three.
Appreciate that.
I like the informalness, Mr. Turkey. That's great. So, my name's Matt Walker, owner, developer, WP Land Company. We now own the site. We purchased the site, probably a couple of weeks ago. Our intent in buying the site is redeveloping what we believe to be a blighted property that's sitting there kind of unused. It was used for a while, maybe with a little with a struggling, let's say struggling restaurant. We approached it on numerous ways. Do we redo a restaurant? Can we? That's not possible with the dilapidation of the building at this point. Also, then we looked at different uses and we settled on the townhome use that we see before us. We've worked pretty hard with Oakley. We started with 9 units. We've dropped it down to 8 units. We worked with those guys in showing, our plan and our architecture and how we submit. We feel very, very good about the project. Unfortunately, we do have to get some relief on some of the code due to fitting in on a infill lot in the city. With that said, I've been doing this a very long time, very reputable company. We plan on bringing a high-end project to Oakley. I did, as of yesterday, I got a note from Mr. Burke about a concern on a retaining wall next to the property. We have no problem stepping up and owning any damage or any problem that would happen because of work that we do. So I will work directly with them. We can put that in the minutes to get that taken care of in whatever form and fashion that we can both agree to. I'm sure we'll come to an agreement there. We stand by our work very well. So with that, the project is 8 attached townhomes, not unlike what's across going, not from a living standpoint, very much from an architecture standpoint, what's going across the street. I guess at this point, I'd probably leave it up to questions. I was like Graham, a little waiting on a staff review and going to kind of come back to it. So, we plan on doing a great job and standing by our work. We can, very, very, very willing and open to working with Mr. Burke and his client there next to us. With that, I guess I'll bring it back over to you guys unless Josh and Graham want to add anything.
I think we couldn't have said it better, and we try not to say it better in those instances. I think maybe if we jump into the staff report and then we can take questions from there. I mean, I think everybody's seen the plans and it's pretty self-explanatory. But does that sound good?
So are you suggesting that Doug talk about his staff report or present his staff
actually,
report?
we can present. We can take 5 minutes and present. Josh, you want to pull that up?
Yeah. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, feel free.
All right. So I'm assuming most of you have seen the basic outline of these plans where we are going in on the corner of Madison Road and Ramona Place. Like Matt said, we have 8 attached townhome units in 3 different buildings, a series of 3, and a series of 2 in the rear. One of the big reasons we're asking for a lot of these variances comes from these side setbacks, and that's due to the front of the lot being on Madison Road. Because of the nature of the district and this being the commercial district with a residential district, kind of aligning our new residential project with the existing residential district is the reason we've pushed for moving Ramona Place to be the front of the project. And then trying to keep in line with what Oakley is looking for in terms of their kind of materials. We've gone with the more higher end, working with Oakley's Community Council and getting the project approved by them as well.
What was the project approved by Oakley Community Council?
Yes,
Sure.
and that you should have that letter as well. That's really a quick overview of it. If you guys have any more questions,
are you able to share?
Oh, I'm not sharing. I do apologize. I thought I'd hit share.
There we go. We can see it now.
Okay, sorry. Like I said, real quick, we have the 8 units, 3 separate buildings, 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. Then Madison Road is the current front of the property, with the Ramona Place being the side yard. Like I was saying, the commercial district and the residential district. We were looking to orient the townhomes with the residential district, which kind of pushes Ramona Place to be the front facing the front of the lot rather than the side, which is how these rear yard and side yard setbacks come into play. And we've been trying to keep it the spirit of the districting guides, mostly due to having that buffer zone between the 2 different types of district and keeping that green yard buffer for a majority of the lot as well. And then, as I was mentioning, that we have been keeping with the materials that Oakley has been requesting for new construction to have and has been approved by the community council. Sorry to do that twice.
Anything else right now, Mr. Pedotto?
No, I believe that should be it.
Okay. Mr. Colby, anything else on the applicant owner side?
Not at this time.
Okay. So yeah, I think, according to the code at this time, we'll give Tim, I'm sorry, Tim.
That's fine.
Give Mr. Burke an opportunity to.
Tim is fine, Dave.
Give Mr. Burke an opportunity to ask any questions of the applicant and the owner.
My first question to the applicant and the architects is, have any of you had any conversation with your next door neighbor prior to today with Mr. Hurst?
No, we haven't. I guess I'd kind of put it back the same way back to you, Mr. Burke, is we didn't realize there was a concern. We've done geotech reports, and we don't believe there'll be any issues whatsoever with the retaining wall next to the property. And I guess we did not reach out as I kind of would put the same back. I got an email as of last night with your concerns and putting it back into the minutes. So I guess my general comment to you would be is we would absolutely want to work with you guys. We would definitely want to work with the adjacent property owner and are willing to, sit down as quickly as this week to try to start to hash out any concern that they might have with the retaining wall and the keeping it in good standing as we do our work.
Well, let us try and understand a little bit more about the development. And I appreciate that offer, and we'll come back to that. Can someone describe to us what topographical changes will occur on the property?
Josh, have we determined finished floor elevations of each of the units adjacent that front Romana?
We have some general idea of the existing grade, and we are trying to keep the existing buildings following that grade down this Romana place as it lowers down Romana. We have a pretty steady elevation on Madison from our report, and we'll be trying to keep that grade fairly similar to what is existing.
So to keep the street elevation mirroring what we have proposed in the submittal, we would be within 1 foot of existing grade through the redevelopment.
That is my understanding, yes.
But there's no current topo shown and no final topo available, correct?
Correct.
And currently, except where the restaurant itself is, and it's kind of built up on its own island, the entire rest of the site currently has a hard surface and an impervious surface on it, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Will that current surface all be taken up during the course of construction?
At some point in the construction, yes. We'll be using some of the hard surface to build off of so we don't make as much mess during the building process as we can. But at some point during the development process, yes.
And you recognize that, I presume you all recognize that Mr. Hertz's property is held up by a wall that is on two sides of your development, and that wall gets as high as 6 or 7 feet.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to be plowing up right up to the base of that wall in order to remove the current impervious surface.
Yeah, I don't know that, I don't know that plowing would be the right terminology. I think it would be scraping the surface off so that we could come back with a sod or a softer part would be, but there'll be no extensive excavation next to that wall.
Can you put the site concept plan back up on the screen?
Sure.
Yes, I can.
While he's doing that, I just have a couple questions. So is Mr. Hurst's property, are we talking about the subway location there, or?
It's the subway location, and what Mr. Hertz operates is the Oakley Square Animal Hospital.
Gotcha. Okay.
Both subway and the animal hospital are in the same building.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
In what I guess would be the northeast corner of the Hearst property, behind that is the largest area of green space that's a part of your development, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that currently is a hard surface.
Yes, sir. The 98% of it is, yes.
Okay. And does that purport to be a landscape plan that's shown there?
This would not be a final landscape plan, though. This is more of a conceptual idea of where landscape would be.
And conceptually, there's a large tree being proposed to be planted very close to the wall.
I think it's mostly just, this site plan is designed to just communicate where buildings are and where buildings aren't. And no amazing thought has been given to a size caliber tree, or if it's more shrubs or any of that kind of stuff. It's more just what's hardscape or what's hard building and what's softscape.
Well, among other things that does need to be considered with regard to protecting the wall is what kind of a tree would be planted close to the wall, what kind of root system it may have, what that root system could or could not potentially do to the wall.
Yeah, I think we could certainly address that when we start to work with our landscape designer. That's
Absolutely. We will.
And do we know, in terms of topography, where water will drain? Because there's also a concern about water draining toward and potentially ponding along the base of the wall.
Matt, you want me to take that, or
You go first and I'll jump in if you.
So in general, I think the large scale approach to the site plan is that we want to disturb and modify the topography as little as possible. And the whole site kind of relatively slopes away from that retaining wall. And we intend to kind of keep that, and we'll end up with catch basin. There's a catch basin on the site right now. I think I'm looking at the aerial, and we'll be trying to collect things underground. We have to detain underground, and it'll be somewhere in the vicinity of, I think, between the building B and building C. So we're pitching it onto our site, and we're keeping it from flowing onto that next duplex that is along Romana Place.
But it should be nice to see that before all of these zoning reliefs are granted. And that's a challenge that we're having here. Mr. Hurst is not necessarily opposed to this project as long as he has assurances that his very long wall that is critical to both his building and his property is protected. And I appreciate the offer that we're going to find a way to protect it, but frankly, I think we would be much more comfortable if before the hearing examiner was asked to grant all of these variances, there was the opportunity to work this issue out.
I think For me, and Graham, you let me know if I don't understand the process right, but I think we're asking engineering questions that are handled at a different part of the process than zoning. And my thought process with this project is we would ultimately finalize the engineering of the site after approval and spend the money to do that after the approval of being able to site the buildings on the location this way. There still is a point to where if we do not handle the engineering correctly, that would not be approved, and we would not necessarily be able to build the site as currently designed. Is that incorrect?
The challenge for
Correct. I think I'll just add to that, if I may. So, we're here today to try and to get buy-in on the concept of 3 buildings, 2 of which held up against the street, 1 sort of in the rear. And so that lets us proceed with some level of certainty into hard engineering plans where we can really roll up our sleeves, because it is a tight site. We'll have multiple easements that we have to crisscross the site relative to water, sewer, storm, electric, all those kinds of parts and pieces. And it's kind of a real spaghetti of stuff. So I think we're here conceptually to seeking approval so that we can move to that next step. I don't think that, we think we do a pretty good job of anticipating neighbor concerns, and perhaps we should have reached out. But I think we were seeing this as we can kind of solve all the site problems on our own site without disturbing adjacent properties, and that rightly or wrongly was the path that we took.
No, I agree, Graham. And typically in my experience, how we would handle a concern like this at this time would be to input into the minutes the requirement that the site be developed in a manner that will keep the integrity of the wall, and then that goes into the development review, and it becomes part of the review process during the development plan, creation and final approvals and sign-offs.
And the other question I would simply ask is of Tim and your client is, I don't know how long you've owned the building, or if you have engineering drawings of what that retaining wall looks like, subgrade. We'd certainly love to have that as additional knowledge when we're doing our site engineering.
Graham, the frustrating part is he's been there since the building was built. The wall preceded him.
Okay.
And it's just, you've said it now, how you guys can come in, ask for 6 different zoning reliefs and never having talked to him is amazing. And now you want to move quickly to get this approved when the documentation doesn't exist to show how this wall protecting his property and yours will be protected. I appreciate the fact that Matt's suggesting a condition should be written into this if this is approved that provides for that. And we're open to something like that assures that we get the opportunity, that Mr. Hurst gets the opportunity to see those plans, to comment on them, and that they be approved by the city before ultimate approval of a building permit goes forward.
I agree with that.
I don't see it as a problem at all.
I would 100% agree with you with that. I do not disagree.
If that's done, you okay?
I'm content as long as you're content.
Right? If we can work that out, and let me, Dave, would you consider this, give us the opportunity for a couple of days to work together with these guys to come up with conditional language that addresses this and submit that back to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we could agree to a condition like that.
Yeah, I grant continuances all the time. I mean, how it would work is, this would just be continued in progress. I can have you back on in 2 weeks, 2 Wednesdays from now. And, you guys can present that conditional language and we can, we can finalize everything at that time.
We're okay with that if that's okay with you guys. I'm out of
Weeks is
town.
Okay.
2 weeks is not gonna, yes, we will absolutely do that and work with you guys, get some language that we agree to so that we can keep on rolling forward and get it correct. And 2 weeks is 2 weeks. Let's do it.
Because
That's the earliest I can get you back on.
other than his concern about protecting the wall, when Mr. Hurst first called me about this, which just happened on Monday, which is why you just heard from me yesterday, he
Right.
thinks your project is a good project that has a benefit for the community, for him, as long as his wall can be protected. So
I get it, and I don't disagree. My thoughts were, when I sent you the email back, was that this was something that I typically don't work out in these kind of hearings, but it looks like we're going to get our 2 weeks to go do it, and let's get the documentation taken care of for him. I think you'll find very quickly that we do it the right way. So let's get the documentation together. Let's get you guys protected. I'm not going to screw up the wall, but let's get some language that makes you guys feel comfortable so that you know that, and then we move forward.
very good.
Okay. Anything else from anyone at this time? Okay. Well, if you have any questions, anything comes up in the meantime, feel free to reach out to myself. Please, if you would, as soon as you guys agree to any terms or conditions, share those with Doug, the zoning plans examiner, on this, so that if he needs to make any revisions to his staff report, that he's able to do that. I will let Cassandra Manus know that you guys are going to be on I think it's February 9th docket. And so we'll get those notifications resent out. And again, if anything comes up in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to myself.
Mr. Burke, you guys have my email. If you want to reach out with some times, I can run down to your office or meet you wherever we want to meet. You can come to me, whatever we want to do, and let's get rolling to get it to work in the right direction so that we can make sure. I just don't want it to 2 weeks go by and us.
No, we agree. We don't want it to go any longer than that either. We want to get it done.
Okay, good. Reach out. Let's get some times and let's get together.
Just don't make me work with Graham again.
Hey, watch it, buddy. When are we gonna get working on another project together, man?
We should find one. I agree.
Actually, no, Tim, we shouldn't. I like you, man, but I'd rather just have a drink with you or something.
I hear you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
All right.
guys.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and then I'll see you guys soon.
Cool.
Very good. Thank you.